Jarrett Roser here today with Ron Higgins, editor over at Tiger Rag, longtime sports journalist in Baton Rouge and really, just around the region. We had a chance to work together at NOLA.com and Times-Picayune, and then over at Tiger Details with Rivals. And now we're about half a year through you being editor at Tiger Rag, and just a guy that's been around the Tigers for as long as anybody. And Ron, good to see you, man. Glad to see you with that fresh haircut you were just telling me about. How's everything been going?
It's been going good. It's excited to see my hair. I say hairstylist. I don't have much hair. Really, but she does what she can. And I was excited to see her. I was excited to actually go out and have a meal out over the weekend at Don's Seafood in Denham Springs. And it's just kind of getting out and practicing social distancing and, wearing a mask when I go in grocery stores. It's serious. Because all of a sudden now it's acceptable to wear a mask in the convenience stores. You can actually wear a mask in a convenience store and nobody thinks they're going to rob it. So it's unbelievable. It's a total change.
Yeah, it's definitely been an extremely weird few months as we try and figure all this out and adjust to some at least temporarily new normals. I was going to ask what the first meal out was if you hadn't mentioned it, but Don's out in Denham. I certainly want to get into some LSU stuff, and I told you we talk a little bit about the NBA. You've been a big basketball guy all your life, been around the NBA, covered when you were up in Memphis, did a lot with the Grizzlies and covering the NBA. But I wanted to start with some of the goofier stuff too. Krispy Kreme back open. We were joking Monday night about Krispy Kreme Eve in Baton Rouge, and then the line was ridiculous Tuesday morning. Were you in that line? Have you had a chance to get back over there?
I wasn't in there. I'm thankful it's in North Baton Rouge, because if it was in South Baton Rouge where I live, I'd weigh like 880. And honestly, I'll eat Krispy Kreme. They have one in Biloxi, and I know they have some in New Orleans. They have one at the airport in New Orleans, but it's pretty bad. I know where the Krispy Kremes are. It really is. Wow. But there's one in Biloxi I go to. We go over there. My wife and I go there to the casinos and see show. Our ritual is on the way out, we'll stop by Krispy Kreme. If the hot light is on, hot light must be on, and get a dozen donuts and just eat like big dogs. And then get our sugar fix. Honestly, from Biloxi to Baton Rouge, we could run alongside the car. We have so much sugar in us. But look, I have a Merrily Donuts near my house. It's a fine donut. It ain't Krispy Kreme, because Krispy Kreme is a lighter donut. A Krispy Kreme donut will melt in your mouth practically. I like Mary Lee. They're convenient and they're good, but they're heavier. Eat some Mary Lee and you just want to go take a nap, even with the sugar in it. Krispy Kreme, light, melts in your mouth. When they're hot, they're unreal. So I'm a Krispy Kreme guy. I take offense to T-Bob. They are calling them a generic chain. That generic chain is better than any donut I've ever eaten. And I've eaten a lot of donuts. Not even a cop, I eat a lot of donuts.
I think I enjoyed that breakdown more than I even anticipated I would. Did you grow up on Krispy Kreme? When you were growing up, what was kind of the donut establishment of choice in your childhood that you remember?
It's Krispy Kreme. That was the donut of choice. And the best part about it is the formula's never changed. Just a sick amount of icing on it. Always light and fluffy, and always when the hot sign's on, it's like one of the best things in the world. The hot sign is on, it's go time. And so, they've been challenged by other places. Dunkin' Donuts is god awful. I'm sure I'll never get a sponsorship from Dunkin' Donuts. But a lot of it's prepackaged stuff. Some of the local shops are good. Mary Lee is a really good chain for a local chain. It really is. They do a great job. But if I'm lining up Krispy Kreme and Mary Lee in my finals bracket, Krispy Kreme sweeps the series 4-zip. No, or actually 12-zip. That's 12. That's 12. That's dozen. Yeah.
Around New Orleans, I guess we grew up, and Krispy Kreme wasn't really around there much, like out and about. So we had like Tasty Donuts and little smaller bakeries and stuff. And so I grew up with, I guess, closer to a style of Mary Lee. And then I think I was in high school, and they opened on West Metairie and Clearview, the first Krispy Kreme, and somehow we ended up with buy a dozen, get a dozen free. So like late high school, early college, we would go with our little Krispy Kreme cards, and on the way home at the end of a night, a couple of us grabbed 2 dozen donuts and just destroy them. I don't know. I've got love for all the donuts. Have you caught much backlash on the Krispy Kreme a million times over Mary Lee the last couple of days?
I mean, I haven't gone back to check, and honestly, I really don't care because I know what the best donut is. And if you've ever gorged on Krispy Kreme donuts like you did, you know when you as soon as you eat one, you have to eat. It's like you're already picking another one up. No one's ain't going, and you can eat them like in 3 bites maybe because they just melt in your mouth, and it's like da 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 da. You know, you've been there. You've lived it. You've lived it.
For sure. That's the stance of I'm not really concerned what the backlash might be is part of the reasons why I think you have been one of the great sports journalists of the area. I mean, obviously this is long before I've come up into it. But yeah, I for sure, when I saw 2 local legends in Baton Rouge, Ron Higgins and Mary Lee Donuts, at odds, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about that, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we chatted sooner than later while all that was fresh, no pun intended, as well as get a chance to talk some of this NBA stuff. But for you guys over there at Tiger Rag this spring, what has it been like to try to keep covering LSU athletics amid everything going on? It's been such a strange time for all of the programs over there, as well as just us in society as a whole.
Well, I mean, we tried to, go with the flow. I mean, this happened, right in the middle of March, early March, and really I kind of had to halfway tear apart my April issue and redo it. And we kind of went with the, for the first month or so or less, we kind of went with the reaction, the shock of not having sports, and our Tiger Rag magazine for April, the cover was suspension of disbelief. And it worked really well. I mean, and just the reaction and what of having seasons cut short and stuff like that. And then we decided in our May issue to do something called Rise Up. Like, you've been down, now we're going to come back, and talking to LSU athletes and coaches on how they've continued to train or how they've donated their time to efforts like, pulmonary, making masks in Assembly Center, other LSU coaches throwing in, athletes, how they're handling it, what they're doing to train, how they've kind of come to grips with they're not going to be any more sports this year, and kind of, guys preparing for the NFL draft. So that was that issue, Rise Up, and so that worked too. And so we're at the point now we're about to start it back up. It'll be different for sure. Somebody asked me, they said, well, how do you think, to interview football players, how are you going to do that? I said, have you ever seen like those things for a prison visit where you're on a phone and a glass partition? That's going to be the media and the football players. We're going to be through a glass talking to Miles Brandon. Miles, this is Ron. How you doing? He said, hey, it's good to see you. No, I didn't bring any gifts. About the preseason training. That's what I anticipate it's going to be like with football, and it's going to be until they get a vaccine. And I'm thinking one's becoming pretty quick. Nothing Clorox, just an actual vaccine. I think there's still going to be an element of people still a little bit scared or cautious. I think we should also be cautious, but I think the first thing that the NCAA and the SEC was trying to figure out was how can we come back and make our athletes safe, keep them safe as possible. I think that's phase one. and phase two for the universities is how do we have an athletic event and with crowds, and that's the one. I think I thought it was easier for them to figure out how to get athletes back and have them train, because it's something they can control. It's in their building. They know how to do things. But the crowds are another thing. I mean, how can you do that and not have everybody get sick? And so that's going to be an interesting part to me. I mean, how many people they let in, how they decide the people that get let in. Do they do it by lottery? Do they do it by how much money they donate? Which if that happens, all hell's going to break loose. But how you decide it. So to me, that's the thing that I'm kind of up in the air. And also, I mean, in media in the press box, I mean, we're all shoulder to shoulder on stuff. Honestly, I don't want to cover a game wearing a mask the whole time. You know, I've gone in grocery stores with a mask on and almost, died myself just having a mask on. It's so hot. But I mean, these things got to be taken into consideration until they get a vaccine and the curve goes down more. So it's a strange time we're living in, but the fact, I'm not saying we're over the curve, because I do believe it'll come back in phases, but to have a game plan and figure out how to establish a game plan and to see that sports are about to start back up in some form or fashion. I mean, look, everybody's so desperate. They had more people watch a golf match with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods and Mickelson than any other golf event in the history of golf. I mean, that's how desperate we are. I mean, really. And so, I'm interested in all the stuff starting up. The NBA thing fascinates me. Just fascinates me. How they plan they're going to do it fascinates me.
Yeah, and that's something I definitely want to get more into. I'm glad you mentioned the title, The Suspension of Disbelief, because I have that issue over here to my side, but a little bit out of arm's reach. And I remember as you were talking about that issue, that the phrasing on the front I loved. I thought it was such a great way to encapsulate what was going on. Could you imagine covering a midday game in Tiger Stadium with a mask on, as tightly packed as we all are, like doing Utah State again, maybe with? Oh my
God, you'd be just, you have to pour water on me every 5 seconds. I mean, just be how hot it is. I mean, that Utah State game a few years ago, I think it was LSU, Florida in the daytime, or Auburn. It was just brutal. I mean, everybody left at halftime, and it was a tight game, but they were too hot. So, yeah, I mean, it's some things that, like I said, they got to figure out how they're going to do it. Will they have, by the end of the year, will they feel comfortable enough to have everybody in the stadium again? My whole thing is, you might have social distancing and you might only allow so many people in the stadium. What are they going to do about all the people tailgating?
Yeah.
I mean, look, they're going to call the National Guard. Even that may not be enough to keep LSU football tailgaters away, just to be outside the stadium. Because as it is now, you have people who go to the games and tailgate who never get in the game or don't go to the game. So imagine you have even more people out there who can't get in the game, who just want to be there and party. How do you regulate that? How do you social distance that?
Yeah, especially under the circumstances that you mentioned, where everyone was just watching this charity golf event at an unprecedented clip, and now you have that many people that football starved for as long as they have been, and you're trying to contain that. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, really, I'm serious. I mean, they're going to have to put up barricades, and even that's not going to work. I mean, people are just going to want to be there if they can't get in the stadium, and it's at their own risk. The way I look at it right now is, I still wear a mask in grocery stores. I still social distance. Look, I was far ahead of the curve of social distancing in my golf game. My golf game has always been social distance. I mean, I don't get near anybody when I hit the ball in golf. So I've always been I was on the ground floor of that. But I like to see more people wear masks, but it's not they know it's like at this point, everybody knows the risk. They know the rules. You wear a mask or you don't wear a mask. You social distance or you don't social distance. But the only problem I have with all this are people that may not wear a mask. It's fine. They can do that. But don't get up on me, in the social distancing. Stay back. And that's probably the biggest problem between people who wear a mask and don't wear a mask is the social distancing aspect. If people don't want to wear a mask, that's their deal. And I think by now, everybody knows the rules of this, and basically you do what your choice is at this point. And that's kind of the way I look at it now. It's kind of advanced past that first couple of months of, should I do this or should I do that? Now you know what to do. You either do or you don't. Either feel safe or you don't feel safe or you feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask too, with the prison metaphor, if you were bringing Miles Brennan a gift after not seeing him for a few months, what do you think is the Ron Higgins to Miles Brennan with love care package?
Probably I would say Joe Burrow's new cigar.
You feel pretty good about the way things are setting up for Miles. Obviously, the folks over at LSU in the building are very confident in his ability to take the reins. It's never going to look like what we saw this past year with Burrow and that group and the historic run that they had. But you feel confident or cautiously optimistic about where Miles Brennan potentially is at this point as we gear up for his long-awaited shot?
I'm optimistic for this reason. Before with LSU backup quarterbacks, before last season, Orgeron's tried to get him in the game at times, but he's tried. With Les Miles, hell no. Les Miles, if he got a backup quarterback in the second half, it was like the last series of the game, he was handing the ball off. Because Les, once he got a 2-touchdown lead in the second half of the games, was handing the ball off. And so they never got a big enough lead to feel comfortable putting a backup guy in. Miles Brennan is better prepared than any backup quarterback they've ever had because he got a ton of time in last year, played an Oklahoma game and led them to a touchdown. Better prepared than any other quarterback. Really prepared, played behind 2 veteran quarterbacks, played behind Etling and learned that, and played behind Burrow and learned that. Obviously, no, he's not going to be Joe Burrow. I think the whole thing Orgeron wants to see is, can you recognize and read defenses and put us in the right play and make the right decision? Which, of course, that was Burrow's biggest strength. You really saw Joe Burrow throw a bad pass last year. As Joe Burrow said, they were so well prepared that it was like having all the answers to the test before you went and take the test. So in Miles' aspect, every time I've seen Miles before, I've liked him, but there's been a little bit of a stiff mechanical way that he kind of would go from read to read, almost robotic. It wasn't smooth. And if he gets past that, I think he'll be fine. Look, they have so much people around him. They have 3 really good running backs. They got the receivers. The Blitikoff Award winner. They have Terrace Marshall, who's going to be tremendous. They got other guys. They redo their offensive line, but he's recruited well. The one thing Orgeron has done, I think the biggest thing he's done since he's been there, is he's recruited balance back on both sides of the ball. And that's something that Les kind of really never did. When LSU had those 2 years in the NFL draft, when they had a bunch of guys who were on offense in one year and a bunch of guys on defense next year, it was thrown so out of whack because Les never balanced it out along the way of your recruit. And so Ed kind of got him back in that pattern. And so now I think they're kind of built for the long haul. They're built to, be a championship contender every year because they have balance on both sides of the ball. Even if they lost, you lose that many people in the draft, they still have a bunch of people back. They still have balance. Plus the fact that he has an actual offensive philosophy now that's modern, that they can recruit to. And dealing with the recruits, there's no, they're in more quarterbacks than they've ever been before because and receivers because they have something that looks like it's fun to play in.
Yeah, they don't have a difficult time selling what what they just did to anybody on the offensive side of the ball. And you mentioned recruiting and the balance there and just kind of being poised for sustained success. They're probably as deep on the offensive and defensive fronts as they've been in a few years now. It's got them back to that point after some points for years there where they were just thin one way or another or both. And so I really think, again, it won't be the same season we just watched, but I think they're a potential 10-win team again, certainly in enough games to where they have the chance to do that sort of thing.
I agree. I mean, look, we're never going to see out ever again what we saw this year. I mean, it was like the perfect storm of stuff. I mean, you don't see somebody play 15 games and average a touchdown pass a quarter. I mean, 60 touchdown passes, one per quarter. In Oklahoma game in the first half, he threw a touchdown pass every third completion. That's just sick. And you'll never see that. I mean, it'll hardly see something like that again, that unstoppable, where they thought, it doesn't matter how many points you score, we're going to score more. I think I figured out 64% of the times the opponent scored last year, LSU scored the next series. Just had this feeling you're not going to stop us. We're going to come back and score anyway. I mean, when Texas puts up 31 in the second half and LSU never trails. Alabama puts up 28, LSU never trails. It'll be different this year. Will they throw as much? Probably not, but they'll throw a lot. And they'll have a bit better running game that they can rely on. But when Clyde was tremendous, Clyde showed the way in that offense how LSU backs can become NFL pros. I mean, he's a first-round draft choice. I mean, honestly, people will probably think I'm crazy when I say this. He's much better prepared for success in the NFL than Leonard Fournette or Darius Geis ever was. And it's not the talent base. It's the fact that the kind of offense he was in and what he was able to do as a pass receiver. And that's invaluable. And let me tell you, Joe Brady made a lot of people a lot of money. He made Justin Jefferson a lot of money, and he made Clyde a lot of money. I mean, two guys that were not going to be first-round draft choices, two guys who weren't heavy recruited, but in the last year, in their final year of college, they wanted to play. They were putting offense to showcase their talents, and so maybe they'll take it easy on Carolina when they play him and Joe Brady.
Looking at some of that NBA stuff that I said we'd get to, you mentioned it as being a really interesting situation to watch. They're hashing out a lot of different options this week, and it sounds like basically trying to figure out what format screws the fewest people the least. As you kind of watch that from afar now, what's your take on how that's developing and what you would like to see or what would be the most palatable to you as a sports writer and fan?
Well, I know our buddy Andrew Lopez is not going to like what I'm going to say, but they should just trash the rest of the regular season at like a month's worth of games left and go with playoffs. Just go straight to the playoffs. First of all, the logistics of having all those teams play all those games at one site in Disney World down there. That's what you start multiplying how many teams they have, how many coaches and players and personnel and all this stuff and referees all in one place. The logistics of that is crazy. And plus the fact to have them all in one place, I guess they'll keep them healthy. But the way I look at it now, they'll be like an athlete's village, I guess.
Yeah.
So now they won't have to get in fight in tunnels and just go back to the village and have a fight. Hey, I'm not fighting here. We'll take it back to the village, okay? All right. But honestly, I think that I heard Damian Lillard bitch and complain they wouldn't have a chance. They were like three games behind the Grizzlies, and if he didn't want to play if they weren't going to go and have everybody there. The way I look at it, I mean, I realize that there's no really fair way you can do it, but the first way you can do it at this point, and you won't get the season over with quick, is to go straight to the playoffs. Because all these playoff series, I mean, I've covered playoffs, and if they go the full extent, playoff series go 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, 3 weeks at a time, and before you know it, you've gone 2 months.
Yeah.
And I would really, I would just go straight to the playoffs at this point. But again, I mean, Lopez has to make his money, so we'll just figure out something for him to do.
Yeah, I'm all about Lopes getting paid, so whatever that looks like. This is something from years back, and I don't know if it's even something that they've looked at in this regard, but the first round used to be best of 5 before they expanded that out to, and then obviously even years earlier, the playoff series were shorter. Do you feel like all these playoff series need to be 7 games? Did you like the move from 5 to 7 in the first round when that occurred not that long ago?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of 7 series, 7 game series in the first round.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, they could go 5, and that would work. You get to the conference semis, you may want to keep it at 7. Or this year they just made, for this year, only go 5 and 5 the first 2, and have a conference finals that are 7 and the finals are 7. I mean, if they want to fast track it some, but it all depends how long they want to be there and do that. I'll just go to the playoffs, and it's tough for the Pelicans. They were kind of getting their act together. Zion was coming along, got back healthy again, was playing pretty good. But I just think this year is just an exception, and you need to finish this year in a timely manner so you can start next year in a timely manner.
Yeah.
And if you sit there and you take this thing into, August, September, and your season starts, you're in training camps in October, and season starts, November. That's no time to I guess, for rest and recovery. So I would think they need to kind of foresee the future a little bit and see, we're going to have a quick turnaround. How can we do this? So in that sense, I would have a 16-team playoff, but I would put that 3 of 5 series and get this thing over quicker.
Did you, in this basketball gap, and I mean, again, I guess sports gap, in a lot of ways, normal life gap that we're kind of hopefully winding down now, did you keep up with the Last Dance series as it was coming out, or have you caught up on all of it now? If not, and what are kind of some of your takeaways from that, seeing some of the old, a lot of people's opinions, good days of the NBA back in the late 80s and 90s?
Well, it was back on a time where you could, just knock it out of somebody. It wasn't for flagrant fouls. It's like, no homicide, no harm. That was kind of the way it went. I mean, with Detroit and then Chicago was pretty tough, and then people tried to beat up Jordan as much as they could. I covered Michael Jordan's baseball odyssey because he came through Memphis against the Memphis AA team. Honestly, also covered Bo Jackson's start in the minors. He was in Memphis to start out with, and did some things that were just so freakishly unbelievable. One night they hit a ball to him in right field. There's a guy on third base, and Bo Jackson runs toward he's near the warning track. And he's running toward the foul line wall, and he makes a catch just inside the foul line. And the guy on third tags. Bo Jackson plants his foot, pivots, and throws the ball on the line to home plate. Never touches the ground. Out. And you thought, holy crap. But Jordan didn't see that. It's a lot of strikeouts with him. You saw a guy, whether you think he was, taking a risk because of gambling or wanted to try baseball or what, it didn't really matter. I always thought he'd probably go back to basketball. I mean, a lot of people look. People, there's an age gap of people debating Jordan's the greatest or LeBron's the greatest. There's an age gap. I mean, I've seen both play. I've covered both. Physically, yeah, LeBron's better. As a player, no. How many all defensive teams has LeBron made? Probably, I don't know if he's made one. Jordan made it like 6 or 7 times. Jordan was a complete player on both ends of the floor, hated to lose, and, really had endorsements, but it wasn't, I don't think it became his life. I think a lot of times LeBron worries about how much he can do off the court and how many TV shows he can produce and all this other stuff to kind of, give him a balance. Jordan had no balance. Yeah, he made the Space Jam movie, but he had no balance. Why? Because he wanted to win, damn it, and he was going to make sure you wanted to win, damn it. And was he tough? A hard ass? Yeah, sure was. I mean, I talked to Will Perdue a bunch about it. He played for Vanderbilt. He got to fight with Jordan in practice one time over nothing, but they all knew that's how bad he wanted to win, and that's and for a guy to, win 3 titles, take a year off, play baseball, come back and win 3 more after he comes back and they get beat by Orlando and Penny Hardaway, come back and win 3 more and play on 3 of the best teams they ever had. I don't think there's any question Jordan's the best player that's ever played pro basketball. I don't think there's any question about that at all. And, as far as LeBron, yeah, he's really good. But I'll tell you one thing about LeBron, about between Jordan and LeBron, and Jordan only gave up the basketball at the end of the game if he saw somebody open. LeBron would give it up as soon as he got somebody come run toward him. And that's one thing about LeBron I don't like. I know he's taken some big shots in the game, but he's also given the ball up a lot of times when he shouldn't have given it up. And Jordan gave it up when guys were open, but otherwise he would have to pry the ball from his cold, dead hands at the end of the game because and his teammates were fine with that. They knew they were going to ride with him or die.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of that singularity of focus on winning and competition was something that was, I mean, Andrew and I grew up and kind of caught the tail end of that first three-peat and then watched the Rockets years and then Jordan coming back and them having those 3 great teams later on in the 90s. And so we saw a lot of that. It was interesting to watch a lot of people either who got into sports a little bit later or who are a few years younger than us see some of that for the first time and kind of get a better perspective on what was going on in the 90s. And I knew watching the media relationships with the teams and the accessibility and some of that was going to be really frustrating to watch in retrospect as somebody who was too late to catch a lot of that. And that's something that I think you and I talked a little bit about when I was leaving NOLA.com is how different the industry was and just some of the enjoyment there at that point that wasn't quite at the same level of access and whatnot now. What was that like for you as a guy who was writing during those years to look back on and see some of the way it was years before the same news cycle and level of online news and social media and all of that?
Well, I still think the NBA is the greatest access in the world. I mean, I still do. I mean, that's why I told Andrew to go get a job in NBA basketball because it's the best access in the world. You have access in the locker room before games. You have access after games. You have access after the shootouts. Guys understand the media rules. They talk to the media. Yeah, there are guys who hide in the shower. I mean, the most notorious was Kobe Bryant. I mean, the funny thing was that a lot of times when LA would play in the Central Time Zone or the East Time Zone, Kobe go hide in the shower think he could outwit the media, and all the West Coast guys who cover were like, hasn't he learned yet? We're going to be here because we're not really on deadline. We got plenty of time. but the access was still, the access has changed in college. In college, you used to be able to go into locker rooms in football and basketball. And football closed it. Basketball didn't. In college basketball, it was great. You still do that in the NCAA tournament. They have rules in NCAA tournament where you open up basketball locker rooms, and the SEC adopted that. SEC also adopted opening up the SEC football championship game locker rooms. I'll take credit for that one because I guess it was Tennessee was playing the championship game, and they had Eric Berry was their safety. He was a freshman then. And Tennessee wouldn't allow people to talk to freshmen, like all these schools still do, which, I mean, I got another story on that, which is awesome. But, you know, Mike Sly was a really great commissioner of the SEC. I mean, he listened to media and some of their problems and tried to solve some of them. And I told him after a game, I said, we're going to have a problem. I said, Eric Berry's a freshman. We can't talk because why not? I said, because locker rooms aren't open. He goes, what? I said, they're not open. He goes, what do you mean they're not open? No, I mean, like basketball, basketball's open, right? I said, yeah. Why isn't football? I said, beats me. And so after that game finished, about a month later, when they had meetings with SEC coaches at the National Football Coaches Convention, Mike Schleif told them all, we're opening all locker rooms up for SEC championship game. They're going to be open from now on. Of course, all the coaches started bitching except for Spurrier, you know. I don't know what y'all be bitching about. I mean, all of us make a lot of money. I mean, what let the media boys and girls in there. But my best story on the freshman, you can't talk to freshmen stuff, which is still pervasive, and I don't understand why. I met with SEC football coaches. The only media guy ever meet with me at the SEC business meetings. This was like probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe longer than that. I was the president of the Football Writers of America, and we were talking about access problems. And I asked myself, I said, okay, I want to ask y'all, this is all the football coaches in there, I mean, all the guys that you know and love. Asked them, I said, why do you not allow the media to talk to freshmen? I said, especially freshmen who start for you. I mean, who play a lot or start, why can't we talk to them? And of course, Nick Saban, first one. I tell you why. Because when I was at Michigan State, Plaxico burst off his mouth when he was a freshman. We got our ass kicked by Michigan. Okay. You know, Georgia, Mark Rick, you know, I'll tell you, he goes, well, you know, honestly, I mean, there's some freshmen that need to mature. You know, they're just not prepared for the press. They need to mature. You know, and Spurrier chimes in and goes, well, I don't know about y'all, you know, but the maturity thing is, I mean, I think that's kind of lying about an excuse. But I got seniors through dumbasses too. You know, and you can see Saban go, my point is blown completely. But access in the NBA is just as good as ever. I think just as good as ever. That's why it's a fun league to cover. It's fun league to cover is because sometimes the thing about the NBA is that they don't have now is they've taken away courtside seating from media, and you can really hear a lot there between coaches and players and referees and discussions, and some of the stuff was hilarious. Of all the sports I've covered, I probably still like the NBA. I mean, I love college football, but I still like the NBA the best because there's a certain rhythm to it, and every NBA game you go to, there's at least 4 or 5 times a game you go, oh my God, did you see that play? How in the hell they do that? What a great play. College football, you see great plays, but not like that because it's out in the open, it's acrobatic. You see the players' faces in basketball. To me, basketball is the most fun thing to cover on the NBA level. College basketball, not so much, but NBA, yeah.
There you go. He's Ron Higgins. I know we've only scraped the tiniest tip of the iceberg of, I'm sure, a lot of stories if we get a chance to link it back up again and do this. I mean, keep catching up sporadically and whatnot, but certainly appreciate your time this afternoon running through some of this.
I've enjoyed this. Has been fun. And one more thing. The first time that Andrew Lopez and I did a stand-up, and he'll tell you this, we finished, I said, you know what? In about 5 or 6 years, you're going to be doing ESPN. And he goes, why? I said, because you're natural. I said, the camera doesn't phase you. I said, you have the look, and you're smart, and you write well, and you know how to deliver a message. I love being right.
I'm sure in this instance, probably above all others, Andrew loves you being right as well. It's worked out pretty well.
Well,
He's Ron Higgins, editor at Tiger Rag. Make sure you check out the next issue, as well as some of these great things they've been putting out over there throughout this spring, this crazy spring, and hopefully pretty soon we'll be reading some articles about actual sports being back on the fields and courts and whatnot.
Yeah, be good.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks. We'll see you.